It's been a while since we've had a review up here, and so I decided to throw one together real quick. I know it's not a comic book and it's not sci-fi, but it is a history book about comics, so I feel it goes well here. The book's titled The 10-Cent Plague, The Great Comic Book Scare and How It Changed America. It's a pretty fascinating look at the birth of comic books, starting with newspaper funnies and then following the evolution into horror and crime comics, and those are pretty popular in post-World War II America. It's written by David... I don't know how to say it. Professor of journalism at Columbia University. And so the book takes a very personal approach, and it doesn't really focus on specific comics or companies, though they do mention a lot of them. But instead, they actually just focus on the people who make the comics their career, including a lot of the greats. Names you'll recognize like Will Eisner, Jack Kirby, Al Jaffe, and then there's some others in there. Also, screw you if you don't think Al Jaffe is one of the greats. So the book's a little bit misnamed, and I say that because the criticism of comics is there, but it's viewed more as part of the history of comics, and it's not really like the main focus of the book. And also, the How It Changed America part, lie. Total lie. He spends maybe like a paragraph at the end, if at all, really talking about the actual effects on America. I mean, he does talk about the effects of the industry, but the effect of America, not really there. The thing is, one of the big focuses of his books, he just mentions the hysterics surrounding the comic book scare, and I just want to step on my soapbox for a second here, because any of the speeches, like the out-of-control crazy people speeches that he has, when he quotes either people for or against comics, could have the words comic books replaced with rock and roll, video games, D&D, like any of the popular trends of all time that have been demonized by media for killing our kids or being the thing that was destroying America. And I was going to say, maybe if parents actually spent time with their kids and figured out what the kids are doing in their free time, either A, we'd catch things that are unsafe for kids and get rid of them early by not letting our kids buy them, which is a big thing. I always hate that. It's like, oh, this thing is blah, blah. Kids don't have money. Parents are buying it for them. That was actually the big thing with the comic books here he mentions, is that because comics were 10 cents is one of the few things kids could buy on their own. But a lot of these other scares we talk about, kids are getting the money from their parents. So really... Anyway, the second thing, you will realize they're not that bad. The effects that they're having aren't as big. Are violent video games really the problem? Or are parents who buy their 6-year-olds games with mature ratings the problem? I say the latter. As you know, sterilizing any form of media because you're afraid of it can really set it back years and damage us as a society. Looking at comics books that have been used to tell some of the great stories in the last 20 years. I mean, Watchmen is one of the most significant things I've ever read, including any sociological, historical, literary works, anything. Great book. So imagine what great stuff could have come out for the 30 years before that if they hadn't effectively neutered comic books in the 50s. Anyway, back to the book. It is a history book, but it's also a pretty fun read if you're interested in the topic. It's easy to get lost in the sea of names. I know I got lost a couple of times. But if you know a little bit about comics, there are some standouts, some people that are really big names you can grab onto, and it's definitely worth a read if you're interested in the history of comics. Now, for the meaningless abstraction we'd like to call rating, I'd give this book a B+, but it's more for academic fag reasons than anything else. It's fun, it's well written, but it's a bit too biased for me to be a history book. It's not that I disagree with his sympathy for comics, but he does this kind of annoying thing where every time he quotes a person who's making a point against comics, he'll immediately hit it with a rebuttal. But sometimes when people make kind of similar quotes about things for comics, he just leaves it alone. He doesn't put the opposite viewpoint in there at all. So... once again, it's not really the most unbiased history book. I wish he did a little bit more with the long-term effects of comic books, too. Like, he said that was part of the reason I bought the book, because the title talked about the long-term effects, and then he didn't talk about them. So that was kind of depressing. I wish he'd mentioned that a little bit more. You know, like, especially maybe mentioning, like, lost literature, or things that could have been, or things that were in the pipeline, or things that, you know, just kind of do a timeline of, like, how the media would have expanded a little bit if it hadn't been restricted. But anyway, overall, solid read, incredibly worth looking into. You know, maybe if you're not looking for buying it, really I would recommend looking for it at a local library. It's definitely worth the read.